nerds? Jared here once again. It's been a minute, but I'm back, and today I thought I would take you on a ride as I go about getting some things done with code, and it's going to be a cross-section of two things that have been on my radar as of late. The first one is Deno. If you haven't heard yet, Deno is a secure runtime for JavaScript and TypeScript. I've been playing around with it quite a bit, a little bit. And I thought I would use it to do what? Well, we have been doing a giveaway on JS Party, episode 163, with Eric Normand. We've been giving away 3 free ebook copies of his book, Grokking Simplicity. And the way we decided to do this giveaway is to just keep it easy. And instead of tweeting or sharing or emailing a friend, any of the other stuff that we sometimes do for giveaways, for this one we decided let's just give 1 of 3 copies away to people who are in our community Slack. So Changelog has a Slack community, changelog.com/community. It's totally free. You can hang out in our Slack rooms. And we decided that we would just give it away to 3 random folks in the JS Party channel of our community Slack. So what I want to do today is I want to use Deno to help me pick 3 random people out of our JS Party channel. That is the goal. So let's go ahead and get started. I'm going to create a new file called giveaway.js. And let's start by thinking through the process. It's pretty straightforward. The first thing we need to do is connect to the Slack API, right? And get a list of members from the JS Party channel. And then we want to select 3 random people from that list. And that's basically the goal. So let's go ahead and get started. First, connecting to the Slack API. So I have found there is an API method on the Slack API called conversations.members, which is exactly what we're after. This retrieves a members of a conversation. So we have a conversation, which I think in this case is the channel. And you can get the list of members back from that. I have used the Slack API before, so I already have an API token and everything set up. If you look at our website application, we have some Slack connectors in there. Let's see, where does it live? Changelog/Slack. And we use this for things like sending welcome messages. There's a bot that you can ask questions to. There's a countdown timer, those kind of things. And so I've done some of this work before. If we look at the client, we can see some of the basics of connecting to the Slack API. This is Elixir code. But basically just add some headers and some parameters. And as long as you have a token, you're good to go. So I'm going to grab this part of it right here because this is the base URL. So let's first start by just collecting some things that we need. So we're going to let Slack equal this. I'm not getting my syntax highlighting there. There it is. So there's our Slack URL. And then the individual API calls are like specific endpoints in there. So if we look at conversations.members, we see that it's that. They have slightly different URLs than what I'm using, don't they? I think either way works. And so the endpoint we're going after is this one. And what we're going to need to attach to get this is 2 things, the token and the channel. So for token, I already have that stored in my environment. So in Deno, you can just do deno.env.get Slack token. And then for the channel, since this is pretty much throwaway code, or at least like not production grade, ship it to users kind of code just for me to get things done, I'm just going to find out what the channel is. And I'm just going to hard code it in there for now. And it's the ID. So if we go over here to our JS Party channel and we look at my address bar, this last value here is the channel ID. I'm not sure what this one is. Maybe it's the changelog team ID, or maybe it's my ID. I don't know. but I do know that one's a channel. So we're going to grab that one. And so we have a token, we have a channel, we have the base API URL, and that's a good starting place. So let's now create a URL that we're going to hit. So that was a base API string. Let's go ahead and create a new URL, and we will pass it. What do we need? We need what we have, and then we need to get down into the specifics, which was conversation.members. There we go. So there's our URL. And since this is a URL object in JavaScript, we can now add some parameters to it. So we have to add a couple of search params. We're going to set the token to what I've stored the token as. And we're going to set the channel to channel. I'm getting those directly off of this here, right? Required token. That's the authentication and the particular channel that you want. Okay, so let's test this out. We have that. Let's go ahead and get to step 2, right? Get a list of members. And how do we do that? Well, we can just use fetch because this is JavaScript and Deno has all of the normal web APIs, just such as fetch. So I can grab a response, fetch the URL, and then that response needs to then be parsed as JSON. So we're going to do that. It's async response.json. And if we look down into the response, we see there's the OK, members, and then we see that there's a cursor. So members is what we're after. So at this point, let's just go ahead and console.log member JSON.members and see what it looks like. So if I just run Deno giveaway.js, first of all, it doesn't expect that because I have to tell it to run Deno run giveaway.js. There we go. Permission and denied. So Deno has some built-in security where you have to allow specific things, such as environment variables. So I can just rerun that command and say allow env. And now what? We have that one, new error client. Oh, that was this one. Let's see. Oh, allow net. So I can't do a fetch call without allow net. So let's also add that one. Allow net. Boom. Okay, there we go. So there is our list of members. Now, I did see a cursor in there, so let's actually see how many members we have. If we go over to our channel and we look up here, we can see we have 1,010 members of this particular channel. So I would expect this to be the same, but it's 100. So that's what as I expected. It's paginated, right? So you can provide a cursor or a limit. The default is 100. We have 1,010. And so of course, if I can just set it to bigger than that, I will. So let's go ahead and set limit to, well, let's just set it to 2,000. That way, if Slack's API will give me back that, then I'll take it. And no, so it looks like the most you can get back is 1,000, so I'm going to be missing those 10. So we need to do a little bit of pagination here, and that can get a little bit tricky, but not too bad. So what we can do is we can load our response, we can load this up, and then we can grab the members from it. So let's just have our members list be json.members, right? And then if we look back at the API, we see that they have a response metadata key with a next cursor in it. And the cursor is not like a number, it's an ID. So this cursor is a string that you pass just like you'd pass anything else. And so if we pass the cursor, we'll get more. Now there has to be a time where the cursor is either empty or something so that we can know that we're done. Here we go. By using this value, a cursor parameter, blah, blah, blah. See pagination for more information. So what I try to find out here is what is the cursor when there isn't any more. Is it just undefined? Let's see if it's undefined. There we go. An empty, null, or non-existent indicates no further results. So that's what we can use as our termination point, basically. So what we can say is we have our members, we have our JSON, and so this is our first request, but now we're going to only get 100 back. We have to get all 1,010. So I can just start a while loop up, and I can say JSON dot, where was it? Where did it exist? Okay, true. Sorry, I'm on the wrong page again. Let me get back here. Response metadata. There we go. So JSON.response metadata.next cursor. So while that's true, we're going to keep fetching basically. And we have to set the cursor to what it needs to be. So I'm going to use the same URL. Search params.set, and here I'm going to set the cursor key to, let's just copy and paste this. No need to dry that up. This is kind of throwaway code here. Let's see. Then we go get a new response. We're going to do the same thing. We're going to refetch the URL, right? And then we're going to re-JSONify it. Response.json. And then we're going to add the members, because this is a new set of members. So I can basically concat the arrays together. Members.concat. What's the new one? JSON.members, right? So that gives us back that, and then we are done. I think that gets us out of the while loop, right? So what do we do here? Well, we go get everything once, and we're expecting 100 people back because that's the default limit. We took away that limit of 2,000 because it didn't work. We grab the members, and then we say, while we still have a next cursor, until this is null or undefined or empty, go ahead and update the search param for the cursor to set it to the new one's ID, get the URL again, and get the JSON, concat the members, and then that will be terminated when it's done. So let's see if that works. Let's go ahead and console.log at this point, members.length. And if we've done it correctly, since we have 1,010 people in here, I'd expect that value to be 1,010. Typo, line 18. Response equals, there we go. Rerun it. Typo, what's this? Unexpected token dot, line 18, what'd I do? Response equals await. I'm awaiting the response of fetch. Try again. Boom. 1,010. Sweet. So now my members array is populated with all of the users in there. So we can move on to step 3. Select 3 random people from that list. Now, there are lots of ways in JavaScript. In fact, if you Google JavaScript select random from array, there's tons of articles. I've looked at this one. There's plenty others. Of course, this is a huge Stack Overflow thing. You can use Lodash. There's a lot of ways of slicing and dicing this. Most of it is relying on math.random. And we're going to do the same thing. Another way that I like to do it, which is kind of cool, because we're selecting 3. If you just want one random item, then indexing into the array is cool. But if you're trying to select 3 instead of like creating a new list and then looping and doing it 3 times and adding to that array, I like to use a shuffle method. So JavaScript has the sort function on arrays. So let's store these off into a new variable. Let's call it luckies because these are lucky ones. I'm not sure what's going on with Vim here, but it is not liking that. whatsoever. So let's fix that. Let luckies equal members. What we're going to do is we're going to shuffle our members, and then we're just going to grab the first 3. Pretty much the same thing as selecting at random 3 times. I can use the sort function, and what we can do is we can just sort. This function takes a function, and it gives it the 2 people to sort, the 2 objects to sort, A and B. And all it has to do is return a random value there, and it will sort them at random. So they'll be shuffled, basically. And a shortcut for that, which I did not come up with, but I learned is kind of cool, is you just subtract, you take a half and subtract math.random, which is going to return a value between 0 and 1. And it's going to basically provide true or false in some sort of a random way. Let's go ahead and fire up a new, whoops. What's going on? For some reason, my tmux isn't playing nice. All right, let's get out of here and let's just run Deno real quick. I'll show you what's going on here. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, right? There's my array. And if I call sort on that, it's just a function. And I can pass in a function, AB, just like we're doing above. And inside that, this is the code I had before. And check that out, random shuffling. Why is that happening? Well, because this is returning, whoops, so random enough values to use in the sorting algorithm. And the sorting algorithm is basically saying, okay, let's just go ahead and sort at random. So that's cool, right? Back to here now. So we're going to say that's random enough. And now I've sorted, and I can just grab the first 3. So we've shuffled, and now we're grabbing the first 3. Slice is a cool function. You pass it basically a beginning value and a beginning index and an ending index in an array, and it will provide back a new array with just those items in it. Now the arguments are kind of strange. The second one is not inclusive, so 0 to 3 grabs the first things that index 0, 1, and 2. Kind of confusing. But there's a couple different ways you can actually call slice and get back what you want. So let's see if we got what we wanted. 3 lucky members. And I'll just print out the array. And we'll rerun this. There we go. 3 lucky members. I expect if I run it again to get 3 new ones. Cool. Different each time. Now, the challenge here is these are just user IDs and not very usable. So let's add another step. Resolve usernames from IDs while we're here. And let's see, is this going to work? That's better. And how do we do that? Well, if we go back to Slack's API, I found one called another method called users.info. Somehow it's not going to that. Let's try it up here. There's another method called users.info that gets information about a user, which is exactly what we want. And all we need is the user ID. And it returns back a user, which we can get their name out of. So exactly what we're looking for. So we can reuse a few things here. Let's just go ahead and reassign the URL and do a new URL. And this time we'll still use the Slack base URL, SLACK, but it's users.info is the endpoint. So users.info. So there's our URL. And we can paste this line. We're going to use the same token. And then what? Well, Now we can just do a for loop, right? Typical I equals 0, I less than lucky's dot length. So we're going to loop over all three of them. And for each one, we just set the search param for, what was it called? User ID? For user to the value in the array, lucky sub I. And then we go back and get the response. I'm going to fetch that URL. And we wait for the JSON. Response.json. And then we should be able to console log the JSON dot. How does it return it? Dot user dot name. So let's run this sucker. See what happens. There you have it. Our 3 lucky winners of that free ebook code. So now I can go over back to my JS party channel and I can @message them and send them their free ebook copies. So there it is. What do we got? 40 lines of code, not too bad. Pretty straightforward. Connect to the API. Of course, the hard part there oftentimes is getting the app set up and the token all done. So we had a shortcut on that. Grab the members from the channel, paginate over the results till we have all of them. Select 3 random people using a shuffle method and just returning the first 3 after shuffling. And then basically just go out and take those IDs, grab the user info, and print it out so I can go ahead and give them their freebies. So a quick one for you today, but I hope you enjoyed going along for the ride. Deno's pretty cool. Slack API is pretty cool. JS Party is pretty cool. So if you haven't listened to that podcast, definitely give it a look or a listen. That's all for this time, and I'll talk to you next time.